Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about bobsleigh, or bobsled, depending on where you're from. If you're wondering about the difference between the terms bobsleigh and bobsled, they're basically used interchangeably. Bobsleigh is more frequently used in British English, and bobsled is North American English, but they're both referring to the same sport. Now, I've personally always called it bobsled, but bobsleigh is the term used officially by the International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation and in the Winter Olympics. So I'll try to use the official term bobsleigh, but you might hear me slip into old habits and refer to it as bobsled. But now, as always, before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. In the famous 1993 movie Cool Runnings, the Jamaican bobsleigh team crashes near the finish line and heroically carries their heavy sled on their shoulders to cross the finish line. Many people believe this is exactly how it happened in real life during the 1988 Calgary Games. But is that an accurate picture of what really happened? What do you think? Did the Jamaican bobsleigh team really carry their sled across the finish line? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is G-force. That's G-force. G-force is short for gravitational force. It's a measurement of the type of acceleration that causes a sense of weight. When you're standing still on Earth, you're experiencing 1G. But when a bobsleigh whips around a sharp banked turn at 90 miles an hour, the athletes inside are pushed down into their seats by forces much higher than normal gravity. The term G-force is rooted in the early days of aviation and rocket science as engineers tried to understand how much pressure the human body could handle. In a bobsleigh, athletes experience up to 5 Gs in the turns, which means they feel like they weigh 5 times their actual body weight. This intense pressure is so strong, it can actually compress a person's spine, and many professional bobsledders find that they are slightly shorter at the end of their careers than they were when they started. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about bobsleigh. Number 1. Bobsleigh wasn't really invented by a single person or group. The sport just evolved from people trying to have a good time sledding. In the late 1860s, St. Moritz, Switzerland was becoming a popular destination for wealthy English tourists. While they enjoyed the scenery, they found the winter months to be a bit dull. They began adapting the traditional delivery sleds used by locals into racing sleds to zoom down the narrow, icy streets of the village. Casper Badrutt, the owner of the famous Palace Hotel, realized his guests were having a blast, but causing a bit of a ruckus sledding down the public roads. To keep his guests happy and to stop them from crashing into local pedestrians, he decided to build a dedicated track for them. In 1884, he completed the Cresta Run, the world's first natural ice run. The sleigh we recognize today was invented in 1888 by a group of Englishmen led by Wilson Smith. They took 2 skeleton sleds, small sleds you lie on, and connected them with a wooden board. Then they added a steering mechanism to the front so they could navigate the curves in Badrutt's track. Number 2. Bobsleigh teams are often made up of world-class track and field sprinters. You might think that being a good bobsledder is all about steering, but the first 5 seconds of the race are actually the most important. To get a heavy sled moving from a complete standstill, teams recruit some of the most powerful and explosive sprinters in the world to act as pushers. Many Olympic bobsledders are former elite track stars who have competed in the 100-meter dash or the hurdles at a professional level. The physics behind this is simple. The more speed you can generate in that initial 50-meter push, the more velocity you'll carry through the rest of the track. Once the team reaches a sprinting speed, about 25 miles an hour, they have to jump into the moving sled with perfect timing. A tiny slip during that loading phase can cost the team several tenths of a second, which is often the difference between a gold medal and no medal at all. Number 3. There are only about 17 professional bobsleigh tracks in the entire world. Sports like soccer and basketball can be played just about anywhere, but bobsleigh requires a massive, incredibly expensive facility that's very difficult to build. Most professional tracks are made of a reinforced concrete sort of pipe for the track that's lined with cooling pipes to keep the ice frozen even if the outside temperature rises. Because these are so rare, athletes often have to travel across continents just to find a place to practice for the Winter Olympics. The most famous track in the world is the St. Moritz-Celerina Olympic Bobrun in Switzerland. And this is unique not just because it's kind of where it all got started, but also it's the last major natural ice track left. Every year, workers hand build the entire 1,700-meter track using only snow and water, no artificial cooling required. It's a masterfully crafted work of art that melts away every spring and is rebuilt from scratch every winter, preserving a tradition that's lasted over 100 years. Number 4. The sleds, athletes, and gear combined can weigh up to about 1,400 pounds or 630 kilograms. A 4-person bobsleigh is a massive piece of equipment, and the international rules actually set a maximum weight to keep the competition fair. For a 4-man team, the sled plus the athletes and their gear can weigh up to 630 kilograms or about 1,400 pounds. If a team is too light, they're actually allowed to add metal bars as ballast inside the sled to reach the weight limit. The reason weight is so important is that a heavier sled carries more momentum once it gets going, making it harder for air resistance to slow it down. But there's a catch. A heavier sled is also much harder to push at the start. Teams have to find the perfect balance between being heavy enough to be fast at the bottom of the track and light enough to be explosive during the initial push at the top. And our 5th and final fun fact for today, the name bobsleigh comes from the way athletes used to bob their heads to go faster. In the early days of the sport, sleds were much simpler and didn't have the high-tech aerodynamic shells they have today. To gain a little bit of extra momentum on the straightaways, the crew would all sit in a line and bob their heads back and forth in unison, hoping the rocking motion would push the sled forward faster. This rhythmic bobbing became the signature look of the sport, and even though athletes today stay perfectly still and tucked in for aerodynamics, the name bobsleigh has just stuck around. Bobbing seems like a delightfully quaint, old-timey strategy in those wooden sleds and natural ice, but modern physics has proven that it's much faster to stay as aerodynamic as possible. Today, if a crew started bobbing back and forth, they would likely create air resistance and slow themselves down. It's just amazing to think how modern engineering and the quest for perfection have led athletes to eliminate those quirky actions that originally defined the sport. Now for some news you can use. Bobsleigh steering is incredibly subtle. If a pilot pulls too hard on steering ropes, the sled's runners will bite into the ice and slow the sled down like a brake. Instead, pilots try to look as far ahead into the turn as possible and use tiny, smooth movements to guide the sled. It's all about finding the line where gravity does most of the work for you. So, today's tip, whether you're steering a bobsleigh, your bike, or your car, think like a bobsleigh pilot. Aim high in your steering, look off into the distance at the goal of where you want to go, and subtly guide yourself there. Drastic turns and overreactions are likely to do more harm than good. By keeping the movements small and smooth, pilots avoid creating unnecessary friction. And this is why you'll often see pilots sitting very still and focused. So remember, whenever you're in a position to steer, stay focused, look out ahead, anticipate changes, and make small corrections to avoid overcorrections. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked if the real Jamaican bobsleigh team carried their sled across the finish line, just like in the movie Cool Runnings. Well, this one's a fallacy. Sort of. The Jamaican team did unfortunately crash during their final run at the 1988 Olympics, but they didn't carry the sled on their shoulders. In reality, the sled was far too heavy for 4 injured men to lift so easily. Instead, they walked proudly alongside the sled as track officials helped push it to the finish line. Even though they didn't carry it, the crowd still gave them a massive round of applause for their incredible spirit and determination, which is what inspired the movie. So the image may not be historically accurate, but the sentiment is. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning all about bobsled with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.